episode 616 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Tonight, going to be talking all about AEW Dynamite and WWE Speed. All that right here, right now, 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Hello, Wrestling Fanatics. Welcome to episode 616 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. Time to talk all about tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite and today's afternoon's episode of WWE Speed. I am Lance Brock. Thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. I am back with another episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic as I try to start coming out with some more new episodes. This is just going to be a quick one. Like I've been saying as of late, the 360 studio's not fully ready just yet, but I am trying to do some more new episodes. And let's get right into it. Let's start off with the action from this afternoon. WWE Speed exclusively on X. We had Javon Evans defeating Ashanti via Adonis. So he advances in the tournament to get a shot at the WWE Speed Championship, which is still held by Andrade El Idolo. And now let's move on to tonight's AEW Dynamite, as we are just weeks away from All In on pay-per-view in London, England from Wembley Stadium. And we start things off with an eliminator match. The AEW American Champion MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, with once again the big American flag, with instead of the stars, all the MJF faces, taking on Kyle Fletcher, representing the Don Callis family. And I forgot to mention, we are live from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Our commentators tonight, Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, and the Human Suplex Machine Taz. And for this match, they are joined on commentary by Don Callis. And we see Will Ospreay, who will be challenging MJF for that American Championship at All In, watching backstage. Pretty good match here. And we see MJF get the win with a brain buster. After the match, Will Ospreay gets locked in his room, but ends up breaking free, gets out anyway. MJF knocks out referee Paul Turner with the American Championship, and then gets the Dynamite Diamond Ring. Kyle Fletcher bleeding after this shot, and continues punching him, and he tells Ospreay that the blood is on his hands. And then MJF goes to hit the Tiger Driver 91, but Will Ospreay makes it out to make the save for one of his best friends, Kyle Fletcher. And Don Callis actually gets upset for him because earlier in the match there was a screwdriver involved and Fletcher did not use it. And then we have a video package focusing on tonight's main event. The American Dragon Bryan Danielson taking on Jeff Jarrett with special guest, the legendary Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Next up we have Glamour Mariah May getting a win over Viva Van. And then after the match, Mariah May receives a present, and it's a big poster of herself and Toni Storm. And then on the back it says, "Die Mariah, die." And once again, the AEW Women's World Champion Timeless Toni Storm shows up in disguise, attacks Mariah May. Then May goes to get the shoe, but Toni steals it from her. And then at this time, referees and security come down to separate them. And then we get Jack Perry watching blood and guts footage with a voiceover saying everything in life has a price. The question is, how much are you willing to pay? And we go to a break. Next up, we had the Bad Apple, Brian Keith, taking on Katsuyori Shibata. Chris Jericho is on commentary for this match, and he says that the EVPs, the Young Bucks, once again done a favor for him since he doesn't want to sit next to Taz. They had Taz taken away from commentary for this match. Shibata gets the win via submission with a cross armbar. Then after the match, the Learning Tree attacks Shibata, and at this time we get the return of Hook after taking the fireball to the face from Chris Jericho. And then we have Renee Paquette backstage with freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. And then back from the break, once again, the remarkable Renee Paquette with Hangman Adam Page. And then we get a sit-down interview by the legendary good old JR Jim Ross with the AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland. Pretty good sit-down interview. Like, most of these interviews that Jim Ross does are very good. This one was no different. And then we have a trios match. The Beast Mortos, Roderick Strong and Roosh taking on FTR, Cash Wheeler, and Dax Harwood, and freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. And FTR and Orange Cassidy get the win with the Shatter Machine on Roosh. After the match, the Acclaimed come down and get in the face with FTR. And then Christopher Daniels comes down with security to break them up. And we see the Patriarchy backstage with the AEW Trios Championships. And this sets up a number one contenders match to face them at All In. And then we have a handicap match up next. Camille with the AEW TBS champion Mercedes Moné taking on Claire Carter and Jasmine Hale. Camille gets the win with a Dominator and a double pin. After the match, Mercedes Moné tells us to say hello to the Brick House Camille. and talks about how the EVPs, her besties, the Young Bucks, have suspended Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, until Wembley. At this time, Tony Schiavone gets on the microphone and says that he has been informed by Christopher Daniels that Tony Khan has overruled the Elite and has lifted Britt Baker's suspension, and she is now standing by via satellite. She tells Mercedes she can get a bodyguard and get her suspended, but she can't run. When she makes a commitment, she sees it through to the end, unlike Monet, who takes her ball and goes home the second she runs into any kind of roadblock. AEW is just the current flair for her, and all this ends at all in. And she says AEW is her home. You can trust her. She's a doctor. And next up, the main event of this week's Dynamite. And Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is on commentary for this one. It's an anything goes match. The American Dragon Bryan Danielson taking on Jeff Jarrett. Going into this one, was a little surprised by it being an anything goes match. At first, I kind of thought it might be better just to have a one-on-one straight-up wrestling match, but I actually did end up enjoying this one. They brawled in all over into the concords using the garbage can. And Jarrett hits a stroke into a steel chair, but Danielson kicks out. Jeff Jarrett even locks in the sharpshooter at one time as a tribute to Owen Hart. And then Danielson reverses it into the label lock. And Jarrett hits an Enziguri arm wringer. Goes for a stroke, but that's countered. Danielson hit with the chair. It's a Psycho knee. And that is it. Bryan Danielson getting the win. Jeff Jarrett bleeding from his ear after that Psycho knee. Then after the match, we have Jeff Jarrett, Sanjay Dutt, and Karen Jarrett coming out to check on Jeff, and Willard Yuta coming out to congratulate Bryan Danielson. Danielson and Yuta applaud Jarrett. Then Steamboat comes to the ringside, does both of their arms, show respect to both of them, and then the music hits of the AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland along with Prince Nana. And Swerve, as Jarrett and Steamboat walk to the back, he talks about 3 legends that have been on TBS: Jeff Jarrett, Ricky Steamboat, and Swerve Strickland. He says all 3 men have defined pro wrestling on this network. The difference between the 3 of them and Bryan is that they've been world champions here. And now the only thing between Danielson and the title is Swerve. Bryan's one of the greatest of all time, and that's why it's going to be a huge honor to retire him and take control of his legacy. He wants a warm-up before All In 2. So next week, Swerve challenges Willard Yuta, and Willard Yuta gets in his face. He says he ain't a warm-up. But then Swerve continues to tell Danielson that he wants him to have a front row seat at ringside to see why he is the most dangerous man in AEW. And that was tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite. I thought it was a pretty good episode tonight of Dynamite. Definitely excited and pumped up for All in just a few weeks or so. And that is all for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. You can let me know your thoughts and your opinions on both WWE Speed and AEW Dynamite in the comments section, either right here on Spreaker, YouTube, or wherever you listen to 360 Wrestling Podcast at. And I will be back right here tomorrow morning for Good Morning Wrestling fans. And I hope you all can join me once again. But until then, hope everyone has a great night. Hope you all enjoy Dynamite tonight. I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.